Hey peeps, it's Lord Lav, gonna do some jazz hip hop beat making without any samples, any sampling on vinyl. As much as I love doing all that, it's nice to also be able to flip it and work on stuff just based on the DAW you got rather than having to rely on sampling, because if any are familiar with it or not, sample clearance is an absolute hornet's nest, especially if you want to sell your beats and you ain't got a label backing you up to pay for all the clearance for you. So let's get into it. Right, new project, 95 BPM. Let's see what we do. Go straight in and set up a piano. Let's go for this. I can't be bothered to actually come up with chords, so I'm just going to set up a chord trigger because I'm lazy at the moment, at least right now. That's okay, let's go for a spicier chord than that. Let's go for that. Let's put that an octave lower, that's the tonic octave lower. Let's go for that all the way up here, the fifth up here. Let's throw a sixth in. What happens if I... That might be alright actually, let's try that. That sounds a bit wanky. That's more in pocket. Okie smokes, let's go for some cheeky drums. Let's take drums from an old project. Quantize the snares. I think I got it. Cheeky chord progression. Let's go. Tucking in a little bit, that's well off. I was drunk, not even drunk. Bassline, ES2. Let's just copy the tonic basically from the piano. Too many notes. Let's have a look at this. Da da da. Wee, steady. Cool, let's add some more stuff to this then. Another thing. How about...
Oh, one might just perhaps fancy some cinematic sounds. How about a cheeky little harp? One might do well to plug one's thing in.
That's too obvious. And let's see about force legato, the whole thing. And let's see if we can perhaps add either a lot of reverb, probably a lot of reverb. Let's go for a fair amount of reverb. And then maybe even a bit of delay.
Now, when I'm making a beat, probably like many of you back at home, I like to get down and dirty with a sumptuous beverage like this one here, Curious Brew, brought to you by the good people of fuck knows, fuck capitalism, right in the eye socket.
Sorry, I don't know what came over me. A couple of beers and I go all commie all of a sudden. My giddy aunt, this took me way too long to figure out, but I did, and do you know what? It was worth the effort, even though it was an absolute ball ache, because it's improved some of my sound design skills, and that has need improving. So I was trying to recreate this kind of sound, which is a classic sound on what was the EMU emulator, which kind of emulated the shakuhachi. I assume that's the correct way to pronounce it. Shakuhachi flute, used in tons of stuff like Sledgehammer by Peter Gabriel. That Enigma track. There's just loads of like panpipe sounds that is used on the synth, but it's this sound here. Always makes me think of Ewoks when I hear it. For the 80s kids that remember watching Ewoks. But anyway, I was trying to recreate that sound, and it took a little minute because there is a Japanese shakuhachi flute on Logic X, but it sounds like this. There's very little movement compared to how it's performed in the sample on the EMU emulator. So I wanted to create some actual movement on it without having to just download emulator patch, because I don't think I'm going to have the money to just download a patch, and I might end up broke soon because we don't know if we're going to get locked down again in this country. So what I did is I changed a few things up. One thing I did is add a bit of movement. Well, a couple of things I did. You can see here, if I go into automation, I added a pitch bend, which you can see here, and also used the cutoff, so you can hear like a cutoff here. So as soon as it goes up in pitch, it also gets there's a filter that cuts off as well at the same time. All whilst also on the Logic sampler, I set an LFO to tamper the pitch at 84 cents. So it's just basically creating more of a vibrato effect on the flute at the same time. So you can hear that sounds like this. There's also more to it than that, because that sounds actually pretty mild and isn't all that different. Used good old flexi pitch on there. Flexi pitch? Pitch flex, I don't know what you want to call it. Yeah, not on this one, but on this one here. And that actually makes a lot of difference. You can see on this, like the actual pitch differentiation on here. So I've pitched some of it down significantly and kept some of it in a much higher pitch. It sounds like this. Still sounds a little bit weird and wavy, but then I'm not trying to make it be exactly the same, just, you know, good enough. I'm not trying to go for perfection. I just wanted the sort of sound I wanted based on that initial sound. So then I put it through good old Alchemy Synth, which is a good sampler synth. That sounds a bit more funky. Add an echo to it and a lot of reverb on there and compress it a little bit. And also on top of that, just speed up ever so slightly, speed up the sample so it fits in line with everything, and basically just repeat it across here. Sounds like this. And that's kind of got an interesting sound. It's not the same as the EMU emulator, but you know, you don't have to necessarily go for absolute exact when you're trying stuff. It just has to be the type of sound you want, and it was worth taking time to do it, although it did do my sweet in spending ages trying to figure that out, because I'm still working on my sound design skills, but I'm getting better with time and practice, and this was worth the time. So yeah, this beat's an almost together. So I got the main structure of this beat together. Gonna do a little bit more mixing down all the rest of it, but this is pretty much it.